Welcome back to Season 2 of Community Convener, the official podcast of the Henry County Chamber of Commerce and powered by Georgia Power. I am Joseph Henning, President and CEO of the Chamber and your host. Today we tune in to another community dialogue featuring Christy Tuning with Central Georgia EMC, Charles Moon with Truist, and leadership speaker Elaine Robinson as they discuss the leadership gap known as the broken rung. We take a moment to sit down with Laura Luker, Director of Tourism, to discuss agritourism and its economic impact on Henry County. And we have a special member minute as Leonard Robinson interviews Jeannie Reed, our February Ambassador of the Month. And as always, stay tuned to the end for event updates and upcoming ribbon cuttings. So grab a coffee and let's dive in.
Welcome to Community Dialogue, where we bring together leaders and voices from across our business community to discuss the issues shaping our workforce and our future. I'm Christy Tuning with Central Georgia EMC. I'm the host of Community Dialogue, and I would like to thank Kaiser Permanente for being our sponsor for this program. In recognition of Women's History Month, today's conversation focuses on leadership challenge known as the broken rung. While many people talk about a glass ceiling, research shows the real barrier often happens earlier when employees are first considered for management roles. When talented women miss the first step on the leadership ladder, the entire leadership pipeline suffers. Joining me today to explore this topic are two outstanding leaders. We have Charles Moon, Vice President and Financial Inclusion Leader at Truist Bank, and leadership speaker and advocate Elaine Beatty. Thank you for joining us.
So my name is Charles Moon. I am Vice President for Financial Inclusion here at Truist, and happy to be here today. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you, Charles. Elaine?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Elaine Robinson Beatty, and I am a leadership readiness expert, speaker, and executive coach.
Thank you. Elaine, I want to ask you, many people hear about the glass ceiling, but fewer know about the broken rung. What does that term mean, and why does it matter so much?
Well, in order to get to the glass ceiling, we've got to take a staircase, and oftentimes you cannot just jump over the next step. And so when a step is missing or broken, we need to make sure that we put it back in place and that it's stable. By that, I mean for women or those who might be experiencing some kind of inequity in advancing to the next level, we need to make sure that there's a solid foundation. And for that, I mean, we need to make sure that women are prepared and ready to take the next step.
So, Charles, how does this show up inside organizations when leadership promotions are being considered?
All right, so I think a crucial statistic is for every 100 men who are promoted to manager, there's only about 87 women that are. I think that this directly talks about that broken rung. I think that it's very important that we really focus in on those numbers and try to figure out how do we get those numbers to be a little bit more in line. And those numbers get even more daunting when you talk about minorities in hiring practices. And so when we talk about trying to make sure that that occurs, that means that we've got to be very intentional with our actions, making sure that we remove unconscious bias and allow women to be in the rooms when these decisions are going to be made, because access is a huge part in being able to get over that broken rung.
Thank you. You talked a little bit about the every 100 men. Research does show that men are often promoted based on potential, while women are expected to demonstrate past performance. Why does that difference still show up in the workplace? Ms. Beatty, what is your opinion on that, and what can leaders do to recognize and interrupt this pattern?
Yes, thank you for that question. We often see the inequities around women needing to show past performance because men are still sitting in those C-suite seats. If we can get women into executive positions, I believe the culture will change because women are naturally more inclusive and collaborative. And I do believe when we are sitting in executive seats that we have a wider vision and a wider look to see who's at the table and who needs to be promoted to the next level.
I think that what ends up happening is if you have less women coming in that are seeking promotion, then obviously that's going to create some huge challenges to your development pipeline, right? When we start talking about how they significantly drop as they move further up into those reigns. And so Miss Betty is right. You've got to figure out how do you get more representation? Because if people see that it is possible, more people tend to enter into that process. And so I think that as we're really thinking about that, we've got to make sure that there are fair and equitable practices in our hiring process, right? I think about hiring almost as a funnel, right? If we only are putting in those male perspectives and we're not putting enough women, then on the back end, when it comes time to get to, hiring those middle managers and those upper managers, obviously that representation makes a really big difference in the talent pool. So we want to make sure that we're being very intentional around hiring the right people on the front end, so that way you have a qualified pool as people begin to move up.
Something that was said, you said something about sponsorship. And so we often talk about a mentorship, and the Chamber has great mentorship programs, but many experts are saying that sponsorship is a difference maker. And so, what's the difference between a mentorship and a sponsorship?
Thank you for asking that question. So, the difference between mentorship and sponsorship is significant. Mentors usually help us work on a particular skill or just overall readiness. They may be familiar with the industry. They may be someone who may be in the company or in the industry, but they are focused on our overall advancement. Now, sponsors are usually people in the organization, and they are looking out for our betterment. They are in rooms talking about us, and we don't even know it. So it's important for us to make sure that if we know we have a sponsor, that they know who we are, that they know our background, that they know what we have actually accomplished so that they can advocate on our behalf.
Absolutely. Charles, so what role can male leaders play as sponsors for emerging women leaders?
I think that it's very important for men in corporate America to really seek out those opportunities to mentor people that are not male. I think that there has to be some intentionality around partnering with those people that you can hold accountable. Because to Miss Betty's point, internally, right, you may want to have a mentor, but mentorship is really about accountability. It's about growth of a skill, right? And when you think about sponsorship is getting out there and screaming their names from the hilltops. And that makes a really big difference, especially in a company culture. So as we think about enough men being intentional around connecting those resources from a sponsorship perspective, and then partnering with our female counterparts to ensure that there's strong mentorship happening, that's really the only way to achieve that goal.
Yes. This question's for both of you. What is one practical step companies can take right now to strengthen their leadership pipeline?
What companies can do to strengthen the leadership pipeline is make sure that they have a budget line for professional development where they actually invest in their people, where they actually have investment money set aside for women to go to conferences, to be able to have and hire executive coaches. And I say that because I am an executive coach. And what I see is when women hire coaches, there is an acceleration that happens that they are able to get ready and to be prepared for that next seat quicker. So having budgets for professional development is critical.
I think that they have to have a process that clearly defines allyship. They have to find a way to get allies involved in sponsorship, measurable goals, because if we put something out there but it doesn't have those measurable goals behind it, it makes it a whole lot harder to achieve them. And then I also think that there's a very strong need for transparent policies. And so if we are transparent about what it is that we are doing and being very intentional about it, just like Miss Betty just mentioned, ultimately we want to make sure that we are putting the right people in the right places to take advantage of the right opportunities. And that's really helps when you talk about trying to eliminate that bottleneck that starts to exist between middle and upper management.
Thank you both for such an insightful conversation. Today's discussion reminds us that leadership equity isn't only about the top of the organization, it starts with the first opportunity to lead. When organizations intentionally build strong leadership pipelines, everyone benefits. The employees benefit, the businesses, and the entire community. I want to thank you so much for joining us today on Community Dialogue.
So I just want to say thank you for having me. While I am not directly impacted by this, I understand that my role as an ally is to make sure that we have acceptable practices that help everyone excel in their management. And we realize that there are cultural biases that exist out there that prevent qualified ladies from moving into those extreme leadership roles. And so anything that we can do to ensure that we are intentional around helping them up and supporting them when they're there is so very important. So I'm privileged to be a part of the conversation today. Thank you again for having me. Thank you, Kaiser, for putting this together and being our sponsor. Thank you to the Chamber for making sure that we're keeping these relevant topics at the top of the agenda. And thank you, Ms. Beatty, for your expertise in this space. And thank you, Christy. You've been a wonderful host. So I appreciate being on.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you to the Chamber for this opportunity. I think it's so critical that you raise this issue up. Thank you to the host, Christy. I appreciate you. And thank you, Charles Moon, for your comments and truest commitment. You men are valuable in making sure that we get to the next step. So thank you so much. And finally, I'd just like to say, I really think that getting to the next step and fixing the broken run is all about community. And that's what we've displayed here. We need colleagues, we need to have advocates, we need to have companies and chambers who understand the critical issues that we're facing today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us for Community Dialogue. And thank you as well again to Kaiser Permanente for sponsoring our Community Dialogue.
This episode's elite member highlight is Chairman Circle member Snapping Shoals EMC. Snapping Shoals EMC has been serving the area for more than 80 years, and during that time has built a strong reputation for providing reliable power and excellent customer service. Their roots go back to the 1930s and the early days of America's rural electrification. In those days, just trying to bring power to rural areas was a major undertaking. Today, Snapping Shoals serves some of the fastest growing areas in our nation, and most of their once rural service territory is now part of Metro Atlanta. The co-op currently provides electricity to approximately 100,000 homes, businesses, and other facilities in an 8-county area that includes large portions of Newton, Henry, and Rockdale counties, as well as parts of DeKalb, Butts, Walton, Jasper, and Morgan counties. Thank you, Snapping Shoals EMC, for your continued support of and commitment to the Chamber and its economic and community development initiatives. As you reflect on this month's Community Dialogue, consider how leadership opportunities take shape in the places where you work. The conversation around the broken rung reminds us that the biggest barrier to leadership often isn't at the top. It happens at the very first step into management. Research shows that women are frequently evaluated based on past performance, while others may be evaluated based on potential. And over time, those small differences in how we make decisions can quietly shape an entire leadership pipeline. So take a moment to reflect. How are leadership opportunities being evaluated in your organization? Your challenge this month? Think of one person in your organization who is capable of more than the role they're currently in. Not just someone you may mentor or encourage, but someone you could actively sponsor. That might mean recommending them for a project, advocating for them when leadership opportunities are discussed, or making sure their name comes up when decisions are being made. Because mentorship offers guidance, but sponsorship opens doors. And sometimes the strongest way to fix a broken rung is simply choosing to help someone take that very first step.
Ever wonder how your business could be featured right here on the podcast? It's easier than you think. We're offering podcast sponsorships that include shout-outs like this one, a spotlight in our episode description, and the option to record your own or let us read it for you. Want even more visibility? Bundle your podcast with a feature in our Chamber e-newsletter for double your impact. Sponsorships are limited, Email Trinity at tarcher@henrycounty.com to learn more.
Well, welcome back to this episode's Tourism Trends. And Laura Luker, Director of Tourism, is with us. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning.
This episode, we're talking agritourism, and its basis here in Henry County, but also its opportunity and the role it has with visitors. Let's start with probably the most known agritourism spot in Henry County, and you see signage for it around the square in McDonough. But tell us a little bit about Southern Belle Farms.
Yeah, and I think that before we kind of jump into Southern Belle, just for any listeners who maybe aren't aware or familiar with the term agritourism, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is any type of tourism, agricultural business that combines those elements of agriculture with tourism and hospitality. And, nobody does it better than Southern Belle because they are a working farm and they, start off very, very soon, starting off here in
That's
April
right.
with strawberries and allow visitors to come out to actually pick the fruit right off of the vines or they do have pre-picked as well as a huge market selection of canned goods and jams and jellies. And then, their seasons just kind of keep going. Once they start in April, they just don't really stop.
That's right. And it's always fun to visit. Have to walk through the parking lot and see the different out of county plates that are on the cars. So tell us a little bit about the Southern Belle experience and its visitor impact.
So it is a beloved local as well as a visitor destination. So if you just are looking at 2025 trends and looking at anybody and everybody who comes, they welcomed about 205,000 visits last year. People spending, almost 2 hours there and coming back more than once. If we're going to, be very specific, we like to call visitors anybody who's come from more than 50 miles away. And if you look at those, and it's still about 20,000 people are coming specifically to Southern Belle, and they're spending, again, about 85 minutes there picking and this is an average, of course, so your summer seasons, your spring seasons where you're maybe coming to pick up fruit or pick fruit versus maybe your fall season where they're spending an entire day at the activities. It does vary, but there's just a huge impact. It's one of the things that when I'm out there, I see people, particularly the locals who their kids have been there on field trips. And, they welcome, I don't know, it is 60 to 80,000 school kids usually a year.
Well, let's break down that agritourism a bit. You gave a really nice broad definition to that, but the majority of agritourism businesses are through direct sales. So let's talk a little bit about the market that you mentioned and the great jams and jellies, but they've also got the homemade ice cream, and all of that. So I'm just going to put a plug in here. Traffic jam used to be my favorite, but Christmas jam is now the top. But if you haven't been out there, you've got to go check it out. It's got aisles and aisles of jams and flavorings and all of that too. But then you also mentioned education, and I know that's a big piece of agritourism, but also a Southern Belle Farm. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like out there with the perks that they have.
So Southern Belle is really the outgrowth of the Carter family that owns Southern Belle's desire to educate the community and the world about where your food comes from. They have been a family-owned dairy for generations, and I think that a light bulb was when kids were coming and saying, "Where does your milk come from?" It comes from Kroger. They're like, wait. So, as an educational element, they really do try to make sure that you understand, they have cows out there. They have milking demonstrations that they do for the school kids. There's, I think they opened a new bee house. So if you go, you're going to there's beehives that are out there on the property. I think it's a partnership they have with some local beekeepers. And so it, pollinates the crops, but it also provides local honey. And it's just a really hands-on way to watch and experience how things go. They talk about strawberries, and it's like you want to pick your strawberries at the peak of freshness, and that means that it's red from stem to tip, and you don't want to pick it early, and you see the flowers. So I think it's a really, really great way that's fun but also really educational.
Yeah, no. I agree too. It's great when you happen to be out there and see the kids' faces light up with that aha moment. And I know, Jake is amazing to work with out there. I remember during COVID, we coordinated with him to do remote visits to classrooms so that the kids had something, the whole economic development impact of that. So great shout out to him. And then the third most common type of activity are the special events. And I know I don't want to keep onto Southern Belle Farms, but I know that they've got some great special event space, and Taste of Henry is out there annually, and some other events in that. But what other type of special event venues do we have maybe on our list of amenities in Henry County that support the agritourism?
Well, we're really excited that Refinery Hill, which is going to be Henry County's first and only winery, is scheduled to open hopefully later this spring. And it's also a beautiful event facility. You'll be able to rent the space for special events, weddings, but also they'll have a tasting room. So just like your more traditional or well-known wineries in North Georgia, you'll be able to go in and sample all of their wine as well as other Georgia wines. So that's really exciting. And wineries just have a huge impact in Georgia, specifically. And you'll see, wineries are almost never just wineries. They
Right.
are producers of this product. They're places where people go to try the product, and then they're event facilities as well. I think the Wine America did a study that found that there was 92 wineries in Georgia in 2025, and they employed about almost 44,000 people, and generated about $99 million in tourism expenditures, which is crazy. So we're excited to see Henry County get a piece of that. The Georgia Department of Economic Development commissioned research, and they found that about 10% of the people that are coming to Georgia and spending the night are looking for winery, brewery, or distillery type experiences. So I'm just so excited that we're going to be able to bring that experience to Henry County for visitors.
Absolutely. And Refinery Hill does have an amazing venue space that the tourism annual meeting was just out there last month.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had nothing but great feedback on that space.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful. What are some other agritourism highlights that we have in Henry?
So one of the things that sometimes people think of when they think of agribusiness, or maybe they've heard of like the Georgia Grown program. So that's an umbrella, I guess, organization that works with and promotes agro businesses of all kinds, but agritourism as a specific, which includes, like I said, wineries, farms, farmers markets, farm to table restaurants, and then any product or that can be sold, maybe even like groceries, because sometimes you'll go to Kroger and you'll see that they have the Georgia Grown section. But here in Henry, we have a wonderful establishment called Knight's Market, and they sell fresh produce there, canned goods that are their own, products, jams, jellies, all the things. They do homemade boiled peanuts, chicken salads, so much. And, it's not a farmer's market in the truest sense, but it's kind of has that feel. You can also buy fresh plants. It's a nursery. We do have 2 different farmers markets. And it changes every year. There's a lot of organizations and cities and communities that do farmers markets, but the Henry County Cooperative Extension Office does a farmers market every year. And it's, again, local products, baked goods, plants, etc.
And that's located out of Lake Dow at 81.
It's at the Heritage Park at the event center there. And then the Hampton Business Alliance has a farmers market called Rail and Roots Farmers Market. And it's usually one Saturday a month, whereas the Henry County, the Extension Services is every Thursday in the summer. And they both sell, local products, handmade products. And that's also exciting because you kind of may wonder what the impact of that is. But the Economic Development Department had that study commissioned, and they say overnight trips that included shopping, people who are spending money, they're visiting farmers market, 19%, which is huge.
Wow. We talked about upcoming strawberry season at Southern Belle. So do you have the summer months for the 2 farmers markets?
I can go by 2025's data. So in 2025, the cooperative extensions was June through August, and it was usually every Thursday, June through August. And then the Rail and Roots Farmers Market was usually, I think, the last Saturday of the month, July through October. But I haven't seen the 2026 schedule yet.
Okay, yeah, because that's still a bit off then. So they might not have that out yet. But if anybody, listening to this wants to follow that, is that on Visit Henry's website? That'll be up once you get those?
Yes, absolutely. It'll be on visithenrycountygeorgia.com, our events calendar.
Okay, wonderful. And any other agritourism highlights that we want to throw?
Well, I think that we have businesses that maybe are better known as restaurants. They aren't farm to table in the sense that, they have their own farm and, they cook those products or, they bring. But Rutabaga's Market and Cafe actually is owned by two friends, and they started it as a way to sell Leanne's Gourmet Foods, which is a product that they
Oh.
created. And so they sell dips and relishes and jams and jellies under that name. And they are a Georgia-grown destination.
And Rutabagas is
That's
in
in Hampton. Yep.
Hampton. Okay.
And I think that the market side was their initial intent, but the cafe has become so popular.
Mhm.
So, and I think that we're really well placed with
Yeah.
all these wonderful businesses to kind of take what has started. You mentioned COVID earlier and how Southern Belle jumped in and they had opportunities, but COVID started a movement where people were looking for more outdoor locations,
Yeah.
more rural locations, and we're still seeing that. University of Georgia Cooperative Extension had an article that was saying that spike that we watched, kind of the wild growth, has steadied, but it hasn't. The demand for rural and more nature-based and more agritourism has maintained and has been popular.
Well, and that's interesting because, yes, I think during COVID, we all were trying to figure out ways to get out of the four walls. We were stuck in our homes and needed out. And so by social distancing and that out in the community, whether it was a park or, market, or it's amazing that it continues, because some other things we've seen, unfortunately, we've gone back to the way it used to be, or as close to it used to be as it could. So it's great to see that this agritourism has maintained. And what do you think, Laura, what do you think the advantage Henry has? Because there's a certain mentality that we are, I don't want to say rural in a bad way, but we've got the green spaces and we've got the woods and we've got Panola. But because of the proximity we have to Atlanta, what do you think that advantage means to Henry County and its businesses?
Well, we're considered Metro Atlanta
Mhm.
in all of the studies, and even the report that I'm talking about, by John Salazar, he was saying Atlanta, urban areas, maybe are considered more crowded and maybe less desirable to those established travelers who are looking for something a little bit less crowded. Henry County's location and also the absolute amazing array of options that we provide gives us the location, the convenience,
Yeah.
but also the space and the destinations that visitors are looking for. So, I think sometimes the consideration of being rural is considered bad, and sometimes it's considered good, and it has a lot to do with who's looking
What you
through it.
need,
Yeah,
yes.
what the lens is. But I think that because Henry County can really be both of those
Mhm.
things, if you're passing through on 75 and you're getting off at an exit and you want to stop at a major retailer, you can do that. But if you really want to,
Go a little bit further down the road, and yeah. So let me ask you one more question as we wrap up, and this might be a curveball, so I apologize in advance. But knowing that the World Cup is coming, and these are visitors from around the world, have you all looked at the different visitors expected in Atlanta? And a lot of them are looking for agritourism type of travel. How are you helping to promote that?
so we do expect that our international guests are looking for experiences that are uniquely Georgia and maybe things that they can't do back in their home countries. And so we think agritourism is going to be a huge part of that. And we are promoting it in a variety of ways. If you've seen the cover of our visitors guide, it has peach picking on the cover. Peaches are iconic for Georgia, and we are lucky enough to have Southern Belle that offers that, and for it to overlap with World Cup time. We're making sure that a lot of our imagery is kind of aligning with that. So if you see something, you're all going to see, a lot of peaches this year. And we're also looking at ways that we can bring visitors down from maybe their accommodations in Atlanta, if that's what they're staying, and introduce them to some of our opportunities here so that they can spend some of that money and experience some, local places, and then
Better explore.
yeah, exactly. So it's kind of multifaceted,
Sure.
and just trying to figure out a lot of different ways to both promote and engage, but also make it easier for them to get here once they're here.
And I apologize because I did say it was one. I'm apologizing a lot, and I'm saying that it's one final question, but I'm going to keep throwing questions at you as long as you're answering. You mentioned the visitor guide and the great cover in that. Tell us a little bit about last year we announced the bilingual single issue. Tell us what you did this year to expand on that.
So last year we had, as you mentioned, it was a bilingual, but it was a dual cover kind of flip. Halfway, we had 40 pages in Spanish and 40 pages in English. And so you would get to the middle, you'd flip it, and it would be, the other language. It was received really well. We didn't on purpose last year because we just didn't know what it was going to be. And so doing 80 pages in another language felt a little overwhelming. And having done now 75 pages in Spanish and 75 pages in English this year, we knew what we were talking about. It is complicated, but we do have two distinctly different publications this year. One in Spanish entirely and one in English. And we've partnered with a fantastic transcreation company to make sure that not just the words are in Spanish, but that the meaning is as well, so that hopefully somebody can be reading it and feel like it was intended for them, not just...
Just a rough Google Translate. Absolutely. And I know you got hard copies, but if anybody's listening and they want to go online, they can get that, I'm assuming, off your website.
They absolutely can. We have both versions available for digital download, as well as you can order a copy of the guides, and if you want the hard copy mailed to you, on the site as well.
Wonderful. So as we wrap up, we had mentioned strawberry season. We mentioned the peach picking at Southern Belle. Could you give us kind of the schedule or the seasonal runnings at Southern Belle?
So Southern Belle really is an operation that runs for 9 to 10 months. So strawberry season kicks off April 1st, and then that will run potentially all the way through April, maybe through early to mid-May. I have seen it run later, but that, it's completely weather dependent. Peaches arrive, typically the first variety arrive in late May into early June, and then they can again last into July. And then we have blackberries and blueberries that are in June. And then muscadines and scuppernongs are available for picking in
I'm glad you had to say
August.
that.
Scuppernogs. Yes, it's a fun word to say. And I think it's just important to note that when we talk about wineries, we talked about wineries earlier, more traditional grapes that are grown for wine are a different variety, but muscadines and scuppernongs are one of the only things that grow in our area. And so you can make wine out of muscadines and scuppernongs. And so I think that Refinery Hill is going to be using these types of grapes, not from Southern Belle, but from their own grapes. So that's in August. And then their fall season starts usually like the second or third Saturday in September and runs through the first weekend in November. And that's just a full fall festival feel.
And that's the You Pick flowers at that time too, is that correct?
They usually have the You Pick flowers in all of the seasons.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So like sometimes the strawberries are in a different field. So they have strawberries. I think they have 20 acres of strawberries, and then they have 5 or 6 acres of flowers. They have zinnias and sunflowers, and they kind of have those in various types of flowers all season long.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Anything that you want to share about agritourism that I did not ask?
I think just if anybody's interested in what agritourism is, or maybe places that we didn't talk about that are in Georgia or nearby, you can go to Georgia Grown's website and they have a complete list. So if there's somebody out there that really wants to buy locally raised beef, you can find that on that site. We do even have some of those providers here in Henry County. Southern Belle does sell beef as well. So there's a lot of things that we didn't even touch on because it's such a huge industry. And so Georgia Grown has a great resource.
Okay. Well, we will definitely have to continue this conversation in the future. And I'm just going to add, for those, especially right now with the pollen season and that, you had mentioned the local beekeepers and that is one of the best ways to help with that allergy season. So a lot to be said about grown local, grown here in Henry County and in the Georgia Grown. So Laura, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing that information, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
You've heard about our podcast sponsorships, so why not make it your moment? We'll record your ad, give your business a shout out, and even offer a bundle with our e-newsletter to expand your reach. It's simple, affordable, and built to highlight what makes you stand out. Reach out to Trinity at tarcher@henrycounty.com to get started.
Welcome to a special edition of our Member Minute segment. This episode, we highlight our February Ambassador of the Month, Jeannie Reed. Take it away, Leonard.
This is Leonard Robinson again here, Membership Director, Henry County Chamber of Commerce, Henry County, Georgia. Today, I've got the pleasure of sitting and speaking with a good friend, a leader in the community, Jeannie Reed from Ameris Bank. Jeannie is the branch market manager for Ameris Bank, and Ameris Bank is a very big leader in our community with a top-down philosophy where we see leadership from the top down. So it's such a pleasure to have my good friend and be on the show with our January Ambassador of the Month, Jeannie Reed, a.k.a. Jenny from the bank. Morning, Jenny.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
No, the pleasure is all ours. It's a pleasure to do this. And we are here because we're celebrating just one of your many accolades, and that's going to be the January Ambassador of the Month. We put a new program in January. It's a point-based total that I know you're going to get to actually deliver and share with the rest of the members how that program works. What's the best part of being an ambassador?
The best part of being an ambassador is really just showing up and serving in the community. I feel like being a support system for local businesses is something that is essential and necessary for those businesses to feel supported. And being a part of this prestigious groups of individuals, and as far as the most active group of individuals I've seen, it really gives businesses an assurance that they know that they're going to be supported, that they are going to, get information passed along with what they do, and will really have their back. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, even in my role at the bank. It's something that I can certainly translate here over in the chamber with the ambassador program.
Right. And you were talking about your role at the bank. Now, you've been with Ameris Bank now how long?
It is in December. It is 7 years. The second go around, I was with its predecessor bank for 3 years prior to that.
Oh.
But for this go around, it's been 7 years. So
that's a long time. So you've had your pulse on the finger of the community for such a long time now. I know that you're moving to the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce. How does what you do as far as your banking career transfer to being an ambassador or the leader that you've come to be?
Well, I think it's something that has been kind of innately in me for so long, and it's just something that was just an easy transition. I will like to say that, there has been some people before me that has really shown up and led the way and allowed me to be able to show up in this way. But it's certainly something that I have done in this particular role in the county prior to. It's just, another extension or another branch. And being a part of the board of directors has really put more of a presence, not only on what I do, but just as the bank as a whole, and to just showing up knowing that, we do have a presence, we are committed, and we're loyal. And I just want to, thank all of the peers and the people that continue to show up and be a part of this. It's just a wonderful thing to be a part of, just to be supported all the way around.
You do such a good job of making this look so easy. And I realize it's got to be anything but that. You're a wife, you're a mom, you're a leader in the community, the branch market manager at one of the largest banks here in the county. You're a leader amongst the ambassadors committee. I mean, do you have extra hours in a day? You're leading on the board as far as points are concerned with the ambassadors. Is there a secret to the Jeannie Reed magic? What's going on here?
No, I don't think it's any secret. I just think that it's, again, something that I have been naturally doing for so long. Before an ambassador was really as important or as big as it is now. And just my natural ability to want to connect and to want to, leverage other business owners and be a support system. It just kind of, segued and created this great marriage that I'm certainly proud to be a part of. And of course, juggling multiple things is always been a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge, but I've found a way to work smarter, not harder. So Ameris has afforded me the ability to be able to leverage the chamber to help me grow in my role, because Ameris, one of their pillars is expanding business deposits and business relationships, and being a part of the chamber helps me do that. So it's a great marriage, it's a great partnership, and it's something that I feel like I can get something out of as well versus me putting something in. So it's a great marriage, it's a great exchange, and it's just a great partnership.
So when the ambassadors, the business owners, what do you say to them for the ones that are faced with the daunting task of, as we said, you've got a life, you still have a career. Are there any clues or tidbits or something that you can share that helps that person make it to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like for most of the businesses that you onboard, I'm pretty sure there's a great percentage of those businesses that are brand spanking new to being an entrepreneur or starting a business.
Yes.
And one of the things that I feel if I was coming in or branching in as an entrepreneur, I would want to know that I have a community that supports me and that will show up in the event of if I'm celebrating something or if they want to be a referral source. I want to make sure that I have something in place. And I think the chamber does a really good job in doing that. So I find that it's important when we are going to these ribbon cuttings, or if it's a business after hours, letting that business owner know, these are the people that are going to constantly show up and be present and always be supportive and be a good referral source for them. And I think that's one of the major benefits is that being a part of the chamber allows us to connect in ways that we didn't think that we could. Knowing who, a plumber is in a community, or knowing who has the best egg rolls and things of that nature, you can probably find out who those individuals or those business owners are within the chamber. And of course, that helps us as ambassadors because we're little soldiers out in the community letting people know about these businesses. So it's just a word of encouragement and a word of support that I think our community needs. And I think the chamber does a really good job of that.
Now, I've been, if you don't mind me sharing, I've had the privilege of having one of these can't sleep middle of the night Jenny Reed brain dumps. 4-page email branded, shared that with Trinity. So I have receipts that this actually happened. I know you've got that kind of energy. I realize you've got that kind of passion for what you do and what's leading us forward as far as that whole tip of the spear thing. What do you see for Jenny Reed, for Ameris, perhaps the Chamber ambassadors going forward into 26?
I see tons of just partnerships and building relationships. Just from being with Ameris for so long, I know that's something that we're truly passionate about. We're not a transactional bank. We're not a transactional-based entity or how we onboard. We are all about relationships. So we really want to get to know you. We want to help you grow your business. We want to help you expand your business. So that's one of the things that I feel like is, that really sets us apart. I know a lot of other institutions offer great things, and we're not, of course, trying to step on anybody's toes or make us look like we stand out. But I know that that is something that we're truly passionate about. And it's evident when there's events, we know there's a presence, and it's a lot of us that show up. And so this is something that we're truly passionate about, and something that is communicated that we want relationships. We want to build relationships. We want to help you grow. We want to see you succeed. We want to help, start you from beginning to the end. And I think that's the direction that I will continue to see and to continue to be a part of in this year for 2026.
Okay, so competitors, she just put it out there, watch your toes. No one's going to step on your toes faster than someone that says, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Right after that, she crushed it. Amazing. I really appreciate it. The energy, it's always the same. It's original. It's genuine. Okay, what you see is what you get. For anyone listening that wants that particular experience that you shared, that a bank that listens and cares about you, how do they get in touch with Jenny Reed?
Well, you can definitely find me on amerisbank.com. I oversee 2 locations in McDonough. One of them is the Highway 155 office off of Crumberly Road in McDonough, and the other office is off of Bethany Road, Highway 81. If you can't find me there, you can certainly find me at the chamber because I feel like I balance a lot of time here as well. You can also reach me via email as well at geni.reed, REED, @amerisbank.com.
And I am also in the membership directory. So if you don't get this information, please go to the membership directory to find Ameris Bank Jenny Reed.
Fantastic. If you didn't know, now you know. It's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to sit this morning with January's Ambassador of the Year for 2026, Jenny from the bank, Jenny Reed, Ameris Bank. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Now celebrate with us our upcoming ribbon cuttings on Friday, March 20th at 10 a.m. for the Little Standard LLC, on Monday, March 23rd at 11 a.m. for Milkshake Martini Gourmet Shake Bar LLC, on Thursday, March 26th at 11 a.m. for Century Communities Atlanta, and on Friday, March 27th at noon for Honeybee Pediatrics. Are you a new member or need a refresher? Join us on April 21st for the member onboarding experience to help understand the benefits and the connections that come with your chamber membership. Interested in hearing more about our members? Check out our member news section on our website. Now for our upcoming events. On March 19th at 11:30 a.m., join us here at the Chamber for SBDC Building Business Acumen from Insight to Impact, Understanding Business Models. Join Richard Schnicker with the SBDC for a 60-minute educational class to help you visualize and strengthen how your business actually works. On March 26th at 5:30 p.m., join us for Business After Hours at Oak Grove Vista Apartments. It's an evening of networking and celebrating Oak Grove Vista Apartments. Door prizes are welcome. On March 28th at 9 a.m., join us for our Regional National Civics Bee competition. Watch middle school students showcase their civics knowledge, explore real-world issues, and share their ideas for strengthening the community in this live competition. For more Chamber events and information on how to register, visit the Chamber calendar on our website. If you are interested in discussing membership benefits or sponsorship opportunities, please connect with our team at 770-957-5786 or at henrycounty.com. We'll return in 2 weeks with a SPLOST update, as well as highlights from the Flex Round 3 competition. And we'll talk to Leonard, who's back from the national conference where he received top ranks for membership sales. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow the Henry County Chamber of Commerce on social media for updates and upcoming events. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep growing with us at the Henry County Chamber.